following behind Don Williams on anything. Everybody say we look alike, but we're not. I know whites think we're all black folk look alike, but we're not. And Don Williams has absolutely no kinship to me. It is customary at any auspicious occasion such as this one to recognize those individuals who are particularly germane to the occasion. So I take this opportunity to represent and speak to those people who are most important here today. That's all of you all that are here, sitting here. Let me say good afternoon to each and every one of you, both individually and collectively. And I also want to express my profound gratitude to Don Williams for having invited me to be your speaker today and offer some remarks to you. But I must tell Don up front, I'm not accustomed to and I tend to avoid speaking to mixed groups for a lot of very specific reasons. I don't usually accept speaking engagements where you have black and whites together, or Democrats and Republicans, or different ethnic groups. I do it for a very specific reason. After having been with governors, been a chairman for a board of governors for economic development for eastern and southern states, having been assistant secretary in the United States Department of Commerce, representing the President of the United States and taking trade missions, I learned something. I learned it out at Fred Price's church one Sunday, and speaking at his church, when one woman was helping me write his book and an introduction to it. And she said, Dr. Anderson, she says, I'm white. She said, but whenever you come to our church and give speeches, she said, it just grates and goes to the bone to us. And I said, why? She said, because as a white person in Price's church, we don't want to hear about racial issues. She said, it hurts us, so most of my friends who are white, we don't want to come to church on the Sunday mornings when you're going to talk about racial issues. She said, I said, but don't you know black folk have a problem? She said, yes, I know they got problems, and we can see how badly they live. I said, but don't you want us to address those issues? She said, no, not really. I said, what you want then is for black folk to suffer in silence. That's about it. She said, yeah, in a way. So I found out at that point that nobody really wants to hear about black problems. But so this day, when I speak to a mixed audience such as this one, I'm going to ask you to humbly forgive me in case if I offend you or hurt your feelings. And I want to ask you to do something for me in return. I want each and every one of you that is non-black in here to lift yourself outside of your skin, outside of your race. And for once say, I'm going to listen to some issues that speak specifically, directly to black folk and their problems. I'm going to do what nobody has done. It's not politically correct in this country to talk about black people and black issues. Nobody wants to hear about it. That's why you can have black studies in any school. Nobody wants to hear about black folks' problems. That's what keep it low, keep it quiet. Let's pretend that they don't exist. And so today I'm going to ask all my non-black participants in this audience to please do me a favor and lift yourself out and just listen today and accept what I say. If you disagree with me and you have some objection to what I say and you feel offended, I apologize. But I don't want any of you to jump up and run home and say, I'm leaving, walking out because he said boo-boo. I don't want you to do that. But we got problems in the black community and across black America. And when I speak about black issues and white issues, I'm not speaking about hate. I don't want black people to think that they should go out and hate anybody. I don't want whites to think that blacks, by addressing black issues, that somehow black folk getting ready to attack you and become all terrorists against you. What I'm saying right now is we got major problems, and that's why Don Williams asked me to be the speaker today. He says, come to this, our first meeting of our Black Chamber of Commerce, and do two things for me. Primarily, address the state of black America, and two, give us some ideas and some hints that we possible solutions for solving some of our problems in this city and in the country. I'm going to try to do that. And I'm going to start out first by telling you this. You cannot solve a problem. You can solve no problems on this earth unless you first of all understand the history of the problem. The first thing you do as a doctor, when a patient comes into your office, say, what is the history of the problem? Is it peculiar to your family or to your group or to your race? And so we're going to start out this morning trying to go after this, trying to understand black folks' problem in this society. You're black, and we got to go back to the history of it so you fully understand the nature of the problem. You have misled and bamboozled in this country now for all these years into what the problems are. You have not heard the real problems in this country as it pertains to race. You're going to hear it today if you stay and don't walk out and get mad and get angry and say he's talking about boo-boo. Here's the problem, that historically in this society, black folk have not moved one iota than where they were in 1860 on the eve of the Civil War. In a comparative proportional term, black people are exactly where they were on the eve of the Civil War. And the eve of the Civil War, at that particular time, we had approximately 300,000 black people that were free in this country, or quasi-free, having come out of slavery. And that was out of 5 million black folk. And that 300,000 black people had mysteriously and miraculously accomplished and acquired one half of 1% of this nation's wealth. Now here you are 150 years later, and black people still only have and own 1/2 of 1% of the nation's wealth after 150 years. Also on the Civil War, eve 1860, we had black people right all over the country. That 300,000 spread out, that was so quasi-free. I looked at the employment rolls. Almost 100% of all those blacks were working in someone's house, someone's plantation, enriching and providing comfort for them. Here we are, 150 years later. 67% to 69% of all black people in America are working in some level of government. Another 26 or so percent of that, 27%, is working in white corporations. Only 2% of the blacks in America are working in their own community for their own people. The unemployment rate in America for black folk is over 50%. When you hear them talking about the unemployment rate in America, they're talking about two things: those individuals who are looking for jobs or those who are collecting unemployment compensation. We have an institutionalized bunch of blacks in America that are no longer in the workforce. That's why 5 years ago, when Obama was running for office, they were talking about the unemployment rate in America for 16%. At that time, the national unemployment rate for black folk was 35%. It was 48% in Detroit, Michigan, 48% in Baltimore, 49% in Pittsburgh, 52% in New York, 88% for black youth. Now, what does that mean for you in terms? There's only 3 things that any given individual can do to earn a living in our society. They either